Have to get ready for school. All right, off you go. Go get ready for school. Thank you for your help. I love you. Not sure what y'all are talking about. I also love how the 12-year-old, whose job every evening when it gets dark is to put the chickens to bed and lock them up. And half the time he does and half the time he doesn't. Last night he didn't, hence why they're out wandering around. I'm glad the coyotes haven't discovered that he didn't do it. I love my children. I love my children. Hi guys, welcome back to Haywire Homestead. Today we're going to be making lard. In our previous video, whenever we were mixing up our ground deer, you add pork fat, so you can pick it up at a butcher, and we actually got it really cheap, I mean for next to nothing. So there was a whole bunch left over. So what I'm going to do is, instead of wasting it, I'm going to make lard. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the lard and I'm just going to slice it into strips. So if you look here, see, just thin, small strips. And put it in my kettle. I have a large stock pot on the stove. It is not turned on yet, so I'm going to get to cutting all this up. Fill the kettle up about 2/3 of the way full, and then we will start it on a medium heat, and we're going to add about 1/2 cup of water, and that water is just enough to get it started. Now, it'll cook for about 45 minutes, and it'll start to get golden. By that point, the water will be all evaporated off. Now, if you look at this piece here, it's actually got some meat on it. That I want to try to take off. I mean, if there's a little bit of meat, it's not that big of a deal, but you want to try to not have a whole bunch of pork in it. And I'm putting the scraps of pork in a bowl, and then I haven't decided what I'm doing with those yet. I may just season them and put them in the freezer and then use them in stir fries or something like that, because I don't want to waste it, right? All right, so I'm going to get this going, and then I'll show you what it looks like as it's cooking. We have it set on medium. We'll actually turn it down after a little bit. I use a non-reactive pan, so no aluminum, no cast iron, because you don't want to add any funky flavors to your lard. So this doesn't really look like it's doing much of anything yet. We'll give it a little bit of time. We'll come back and I'll show you how it looks about halfway through. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the lard. It's been cooking for about half an hour, so we've got about 15-20 minutes or so left to go. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so you see how the fat is just really cooked down. So what we're going to be looking for in the next, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or so, I'm actually going to turn it down. I had it between 3 and 4. I'm going to turn it down between 2 and 3. This is to keep it from scorching on the bottom. So you want to stir it periodically. I have been stirring it off and on, but I'm going to have to stir it a little bit more frequently now that it's cooked down more. And you see all these lovely bits in here? all of these will continue to cook down, and then what's going to happen is they'll start to kind of sink down toward the bottom, and they'll be nice and golden brown. Those are your pork cracklings, okay? Those are golden nuggets of goodness. You can use them, some people crush them up and use them in like cornbread as a good old-fashioned thing. You can crunch them up and use them to bread chicken, especially like for us, I'm gluten-free. You know, we can do them that. I can use them as a topping for, you know, like potatoes au gratin, that kind of stuff. But those, once this is, see how they're not all cooked down. So we want to get them to where they're more like this. They'll actually get crunchy. And then we'll strain them out of the lard and squeeze all the lard out of them. And then we will jar the lard. So now I'm just gonna, I took most of the cracklings out and put them on a cookie sheet on a paper towel so they can drain off. That way I'll be able to let them cool and store them. And then I'm using a fine mesh sieve to try to catch all the rest of the bits. Then I'm just pressing to get as much of the oil out of it as possible. Once I do this, I'll actually leave the lard sitting here for probably 20 minutes or so just to let it cool down a little bit, and then I'll stir it. As it cools, if you stir it, it kind of helps it not get that gritty texture. And then I'll place it in jars. Now you can store it a couple different ways. You can pressure can it. I believe it's 10 pounds of pressure. I'd have to go back and find the amount of time. But I actually seal it up in airtight containers. I put a small amount in the refrigerator and make sure it's sealed well. Otherwise, the other flavor or smells and things in your fridge can give it an off taste. So you want to make sure it's in a good sealed container. It'll last up to 6 months in your refrigerator and a couple of years in the freezer. And then, you know, some people just keep it out on the counter. You don't have to refrigerate it. It'll keep for a couple of months on the counter, just no problem. Probably not quite as long in the summertime if the house is hot, but most of us have air conditioning. Or you could keep it, you know, down in a root cellar where it's nice and cool. That would work out just fine too. Alright, so when it actually solidifies, it will be a nice creamy white color. Right now it's that lovely golden color. So we're just going to let it sit here, cool off a little bit more before I start placing it in jars. And then I will have lard to use in baking and cooking for probably a couple of months. And if I remember correctly, they got 12 pounds for like $2. So, I mean, how are we going to win with that? My mom actually did some too. So, you know, super, super cheap. Way cheaper than if I was to buy lard in the store. And all right, here we go. We're going to start ladling it in. I prefer to use pint jars, just so that way I only have a small amount out at a time, whether it be, you know, in the refrigerator. Now I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch headspace on these. And then we're going to let them, we'll put lids on them, we'll let them sit on the counter until they cool and start to solidify, and then they're safe to put in the refrigerator or the freezer, or you could even stick them, like I said, in a cool place. If you're fortunate enough to have a root cellar, something that I don't have, and I'm sorry that you guys are only seeing me from the neck down, it's not enough room on the counter to get a good angle. I guess I could try to tilt it a little bit. Let's see. There we go. How's that? That's better, right? And it looks like we're probably going to have, oh, I might have to get another pint out here. See how talented I can be. And we're going to pick up the bowl. And hopefully I don't make a big mess. Wow, I actually need a whole nother one. So it looks like we're probably going to be close to 5 pints total. Alright, there you have it. We'll put lids on these and then just let them cool down. We are all done, so that's how I make lard. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you hit the subscribe button. Want to thank everyone so much for all of your support, nice comments, and everything that you leave for us. I mean, I make sure that I read every single one. A lot of times I try to comment back as well. So I hope to see you guys next time. Take care.